Okay, Maya Akasis, I have a very hard time trying to find different ways to word things that would eliminate the problems with how the character is reacting or how to move them into dialogue without he said or she said. I've definitely been trying more actions, but it still eludes me. Oh, just, yeah. Oh no, I'm already bagged. I entered into the stream absolutely exhausted, so I know what I'm up against. Um, okay. So the first thing I would ask is, do you need to say he said, she said for all of the lines? Once we've established there's only two people in this conversation, most people will see that, the lines switch off, and then you just have action tags every once in a while just to kind of maintain something or to highlight something that somebody said or did in a certain way, especially actions. Um so you don't need the I teased. Like, you can just ignore it. You could take that out if you wanted, and that's fine, because once we've established that it's just these two people, then we don't necessarily need to say he said, she said, he said, she said, that kind of thing going on there. She ignored me. By virtue of her going, here's a thought, maybe let them finish before trying anything. It just pushes the conversation forward. All of a sudden, that her ignoring this other person is in the subtext. And for the most part, people can, if it's clear, people can understand it. Um, oh yeah, no, that gets tough. And sometimes, you know what I think? Okay, I'm going back to film school here. I'm going back to film school for a minute, but just hopefully this kind of gets us to a place where we want to go. When you're screenwriting, you want to kind of cheat this line between emoting in the script and giving the actor room to inhabit their performance. So a lot of the times, when I'm looking at a script from a directorial standpoint, or when I'm doing a line reading with an actor, if I see a lot of, kind of like, you know, bracket breathily, bracket angrily, bracket yells, for the most part, I will take those out. I'll just red pen them. I will take them out, because I want that actor to feel the freedom of being able to inhabit and identify the emotions of that character that they are portraying themselves. I want them to feel authentic about it, and I don't want them to feel kind of sort of caged by, I have to be angry at this line. Because what happens if you have, like, you're running the scene and you've got three cameras on these people and you're kind of going through it, and the energy changes but the performance is just on, and it might not be that big gigantic yell. It might be a whisper, but it changes the energy. And you're like, if I had stuck to that line reading of how that actor should say that line, then I would have kind of put that performance in a straitjacket. When I take that into prose, when I take that into a literary sense, I am treating my readers as if they're an actor preparing lines. A little bit. Not a lot, but I'm going to continue the thought process. There are tons of things in our fiction that we need to be precise about, that we need to make sure that emotion is there, that we can make somebody feel something or believe something for a little while. We are encouraging our readers to inhabit a space that we have provided. That's really what we're doing when we're asking them to suspend their disbelief and enter our fiction. Call it escapism, call it what you will, but we are attempting to have somebody forget their life for a while, or to push, the other stuff around them away, and concentrate on an emotion or a plot or a circumstance or a field of knowing that we want them to inhabit that we want them to experience and that we want to take them through by the end of it. And as an author, it's our job to make sure that we can hold that person by the hand for a while. And our promise is that, unless it's a series, which is, obviously there's going to be things that don't conclude, our promise is that by the end of that project, we will have taken them to the conclusion. We will have taken them to the end. Now, depending on certain things, sorry, just making a note there. Depending on certain things, on certain genres, and on how important something is of a moment, is how tightly we are going to hold on to that reader's hand. There are times as a director where I have to be like, listen, this moment needs to be, this moment needs to be large, or this moment needs to be contained. Like, we need to take it here because it's going to expand into something else. And especially it's a little bit different with film, because, very seldomly do you actually film a TV show or a movie in chronological order of scene. Now, you film based on the location schedules and everything else. So you're filming most things out of order. And it's probably, as I think about it, why I can't write anything in order. Be that as it may. But you kind of have to have that sense in your head of where we're going to go and where we need to be. And you're sort of juggling that. In this case, what I'm trying to say, I guess, in this little aside, is when you're dealing with, well, I don't know when to kind of push that emotion or let the reader explore, that this does not necessarily need to be one of those moments where you're really clinging tightly. Yeah, you can let it flow. You can let the reader decide for themselves what the subtext is behind. How would you know what those are like? Here's a thought. Maybe let them finish. So I'm being too controlling of what I want the readers to feel, is the question from Maya Aka. A little bit. I think too, a lot of us who grew up with anime and TV shows and film as our guide, or like that was the media that kind of seeped into our souls in a way, we know what our characters sound like in our own heads. We know it. I know that when I finally have Adarastos and Neon Lieben speak, I know what tone of voice, I know the thickness of that sound, that reverberant sound is. I know the way in my head that Max Allard stumbles across his words. Yet that's for me, and my readers are going to hopefully get the same impression, but they're going to make it their own. And depending on where they're from in the world, surprise will sound different. It'll look different. Depending on where they are in the world, certain conventions apply. And so, unless it's one of those moments where we really want to focus because this is a pivotal thing, I think that we can absolve ourselves from the need to quantify and qualify every single piece of dialogue. It's okay to let it flow. And I find a tremendous amount of relief in that, because I tend to want to overshare and over punctuate emotion in my work, and I have to rein that back. But I think, every once in a while, just getting that idea that I have permission to just let it flow. That's really relieving in a way. Like, yeah.